Are your people working hard but not reaching their full potential? The problem is not effort, it is development. At the Modern Observer Group, we transform workforce development into real performance. Our human-centered achievement programs help your team think better, communicate stronger, and execute at a higher level. That means higher employee engagement, stronger leadership, and measurable results across your organization. If you want a workforce that performs, leads, and delivers, it is time to invest in your people. Visit modernobserver.com and discover how the Modern Observer Group helps you build a workforce that wins.
American soldiers killed, election interference documents declassified, major closings at a popular convenience store, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. Iranian ballistic missiles struck a U.S. airbase in Jordan on Friday, killing 2 soldiers and leaving a third officially missing, though the remains believed to be the missing soldiers were recovered over the weekend. Another American service member died Saturday during the disposal of a downed Iranian drone in Iraq. Tehran has since struck Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan again, targeting water desalination plants, power facilities, and military bases. The United States is sending additional F-16s and F-35s to the region and launched a new round of strikes on Iran over the weekend. Iran has reportedly instructed Yemen's Houthi terrorists to prepare to close a critical Red Sea gateway if the United States attacks Iranian power infrastructure, Reuters reported, a threat experts warn could sharply disrupt global shipping, even if the group cannot completely seal the waterway. This threat should be taken seriously, Nadwa al-Dosari of the Middle East Institute told Fox News Digital. With recent escalation in U.S. strikes on Iran, Tehran has already signaled that the Bab al-Mandab Strait could become part of its response. 3 sources told Reuters that Iran's leadership had discussed using the Houthis to shut the Bab al-Mandab Strait and recently conveyed the request to the group. A source close to the Houthis said missiles and drones had been deployed near the waterway and that the group was awaiting an order to begin attacking shipping. President Trump has pledged to hold Canada responsible for costs tied to unhealthy U.S. air quality from spreading Canadian wildfire smoke, threatening to add the pollution's price tag to existing tariffs. A thick wave of smoke is shrouding swaths of the country from Milwaukee to Washington, D.C. Chicago, which recorded the world's worst big city air on Thursday, suffered deteriorating conditions over the weekend as a new plume arrived. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani said his administration is still weighing whether to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu if he visits New York for the UN General Assembly in September. I believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu belongs in The Hague, Mamdani said. City lawyers are exploring whether he has the authority to detain a sitting foreign leader, though legal experts say the move would face serious obstacles. The move has triggered bipartisan condemnation, with Senator John Fetterman referring to Mamdani as a clown. President Donald Trump used a primetime White House address on Thursday to announce the declassification of intelligence on foreign threats to U.S. elections 4 months before the midterms. Trump said the documents posted to the White House website during the speech reveal shocking vulnerabilities tied to hacking, exploitation, and foreign interference. He charged that China illegally obtained 220 million voter files beginning in 2020, including names, addresses, voting history, and party affiliation. A White House official said the materials do not allege votes were changed or machines hacked in 2020, and Beijing denied any interference. Trump called on the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the CIA to launch an investigation and press criminal charges against those involved. Secretary of State Marco Rubio declared Thursday that violent far-left political terrorism can no longer be denied, as he urged more than 60 countries gathered in Washington to treat the threat as a global counterterrorism priority. Speaking at the opening of a State Department ministerial attended by roughly 65 foreign delegations, Rubio said governments had spent too long overlooking what he described as a resurgence of transnational far left extremist violence and called for greater international cooperation to counter it. You are here because this is real and it is getting worse, and it can no longer be denied and it can no longer be ignored, Rubio said. It is time to crush this evil forever. It's time for people of the civilized world to defend themselves, he added. Historians have noted that the far left activists in the United States are mirroring the comments and actions of 1930s Germany. The House passed what it called the Common Sense Act by voice vote, setting national rules for rounding cash transactions to the nearest nickel and legally ending penny production in the U.S. Under the new bill, if an amount has 1, 2, 6, or 7 as the last cent digit, it can generally be rounded down to the nearest nickel. On the other hand, if an amount ends with 3, 4, 8, or 9 as the last cent digit, it can be rounded up. The legislation also authorizes the Treasury to test a redesigned, lower-cost nickel made with zinc instead of the current copper-heavy alloy. Currently, every 5-cent nickel costs nearly 14 cents to produce last year, and the U.S. Mint lost roughly $18 million on nickel production alone. Taylor Farms is pulling all of its iceberg lettuce grown in central Mexico from the U.S. market in an effort to curb the recent outbreak of the parasite cyclospora, which has sickened people in multiple states and caused all those alarming explosive diarrhea headlines. The recall comes after the CDC and FDA on Thursday linked cases in 5 Midwestern states to shredded lettuce supplied to Taco Bell. The fast food chain has already voluntarily removed some items. Taylor Farms is one of the country's largest produce growers, supplying not just Taco Bell, but also other restaurants and major grocers. The parasite is typically spread through contaminated food or water and causes watery diarrhea, stomach cramps, fatigue, and nausea. The parent company of 7-Eleven convenience stores shed more light on its plan to close hundreds of stores in the U.S. this year. 7&I Holdings indicated in a filing earlier this year that it planned to close 645 7-Eleven stores in the company's fiscal year 2026. 7&I Holdings' latest quarterly earnings report included a presentation about the company's various initiatives, including the restructuring of its store network amid the closure plans, as well as conversion, remodels, and new openings. It said that it plans to close 200 unprofitable 7-Eleven stores in fiscal year 2026, with 45 stores closed to date. That's the Raw Naked Truth for July 20th, 2026. Remember to like and subscribe to the Raw Naked Truth wherever you listen to podcasts. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.